In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the especially merciful, my dear sisters, strength in Islam was never loud, harsh, or arrogant, but it was never weak. Allah did not create the believing woman to be walked over, emotionally drained, or reduced to silence in the name of softness. Somewhere along the way, many of us confused gentleness with self-erasure, patience with self-neglect, and humility with accepting what Allah never commanded us to accept. Today, we are not here to harden our hearts, but to anchor them, to remember who we are before we remember who hurt us, to reclaim the dignity Allah placed within us before the world taught us to shrink. This is a reminder to rise without rebellion, to be firm without cruelty, and to know your worth without apology. Because a woman who knows her value walks differently, loves differently, and worships Allah from a place of strength, not fear. A woman who knows Allah knows herself. Your value does not rise when people praise you, and it does not fall when they walk away. When your worth is anchored in Iman, you stop begging for validation, you stop tolerating disrespect, and you stop shrinking to keep others comfortable. You realize that Allah honored you before anyone chose you, and He defined your value long before the world tried to price you. From this place, you don't become hard. You become unshakable. Many women struggle with boundaries not because they are weak, but because they are kind. They were taught that being a good woman means always giving, always forgiving, always understanding, no matter the cost to their own hearts. Over time, this misunderstanding turns kindness into self-betrayal. Boundaries were never meant to erase compassion. They exist to protect it. Without boundaries, mercy becomes exhaustion, and generosity becomes resentment. Islam does not teach us to be endlessly available. Even the Prophet, the most merciful of all creation, set limits. He withdrew to rest. He said no when no was needed, and He redirected people when their demands crossed what was healthy or just. This teaches us a powerful lesson. Setting boundaries is not a lack of love. It is a form of wisdom. Boundaries with mercy begin internally. Before you ever speak a boundary, you must recognize it within yourself. You must notice when your heart feels heavy, when your energy is drained, when your silence is costing you your peace. These are not signs of ingratitude, they are signals. Allah created you with emotions not to punish you, but to guide you. Ignoring those signals in the name of patience is not righteousness, it is neglect. A merciful boundary does not come from anger or revenge, it comes from clarity. It sounds calm, not cruel. It is firm, not dramatic. You are not required to explain your limits to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You are only required to be truthful and respectful. Saying, I cannot continue this conversation, or this is not something I am comfortable with, is not arrogance. It is self-respect expressed with adab. Many women fear that boundaries will push people away, and sometimes they will. But understand this, boundaries do not destroy healthy relationships, they expose unhealthy ones. Anyone who benefits from your lack of limits will feel threatened when you begin to honor yourself. Their discomfort is not a sign that you are wrong, it is evidence that a correction was needed. Mercy within boundaries also means knowing when to forgive and when to create distance. Forgiveness in Islam is powerful, but forgiveness does not require proximity. You can release resentment while still protecting your heart. Allah never commanded you to repeatedly place yourself in harm's way just to prove your patience. True mercy includes mercy toward yourself. Another misunderstood aspect of boundaries is silence. Not every truth needs to be spoken, and not every offense needs a response. Silence, when chosen intentionally, can be an act of strength. It preserves dignity, prevents escalation, and allows Allah to handle what you cannot. A woman with boundaries does not rush to defend herself. She trusts that Allah sees what people miss. Boundaries also apply to emotional labor. You are not responsible for fixing grown adults, healing wounds you did not cause, or carrying burdens that Allah did not assign to you. Being emotionally available does not mean being emotionally drained. Mercy means helping when you can without destroying yourself in the process. When boundaries are rooted in Iman, they are guided by taqwa. You ask yourself, does this please Allah? Does this preserve my dignity? Does this protect my heart from resentment and sin? Boundaries help you avoid bitterness, backbiting, and emotional burnout. They keep your worship sincere because your heart is not constantly overwhelmed by people's demands. A woman who practices boundaries with mercy does not become cold. She becomes balanced. She gives from fullness, not depletion. She loves without losing herself. She serves without feeling used. And most importantly, she learns that saying no to what drains her is often saying yes to Allah. In the end, boundaries are not walls meant to isolate you. They are doors you choose when to open and when to close. They teach others how to treat you, but more importantly, they teach you how to honor the amana of your own soul. When mercy and boundaries walk together, a woman no longer feels guilty for protecting what Allah entrusted to her, her heart, her dignity, and her peace. Emotional discipline is not the absence of feelings, it is the ability to govern them rather than be governed by them. Many women feel deeply, love intensely, and hurt quietly, and this depth is not a flaw, it is a gift. But when emotions are left unmanaged, they begin to lead decisions, reactions, and relationships in ways that slowly erode dignity. Islam never asked us to become emotionally numb. It taught us how to become emotionally mature. A woman without emotional discipline reacts. A woman with emotional discipline responds. She pauses where others explode. She reflects where others accuse. She understands that every emotion she feels does not deserve immediate expression. Feelings are information, not instructions. They tell you something is happening inside, but they do not get to decide your behavior. One of the greatest PS for women is emotional impulsivity, speaking while hurt, agreeing while afraid, staying silent while angry, overgiving while empty. Emotional discipline begins when you stop allowing temporary feelings to create permanent consequences. Not every tear requires a text. Not every wave of loneliness requires attachment. Not every moment of anger requires a confrontation. The Prophet taught us restraint long before modern psychology named it. He taught us to lower our voices when angry, to sit when standing, to make wudu when emotions rise. These were not just spiritual acts, they were emotional regulation tools. Islam acknowledges that emotions surge, but it gives us a system to slow them down. Emotionally disciplined women are not cold. They are centered. They do not chase reassurance every time insecurity whispers. They do not overshare their pain with people who have not earned their trust. They are selective with their vulnerability because they understand that emotional exposure without wisdom leads to regret. One of the hardest forms of discipline is learning not to react to disrespect immediately. Not every provocation deserves your energy. Silence can be power. Distance can be clarity. A woman who controls her emotions controls the atmosphere around her. She does not allow others to pull her into chaos just because they are chaotic. Emotional discipline also means taking responsibility for your inner world. You do not blame others for how you feel forever. Yes, people can hurt you, but healing is your responsibility. Carrying unresolved emotions into every new interaction turns wounds into weapons. Discipline is choosing healing over reliving, growth over bitterness. Another overlooked aspect is emotional dependency. Many women confuse attachment with love. They seek emotional safety in people rather than in Allah. Emotional discipline breaks this pattern. It teaches you to self-soothe, to turn to du'a before desperation, to find grounding in salah instead of validation. When Allah becomes your emotional anchor, people stop having the power to destabilize you. Discipline does not mean suppressing emotions until they explode. It means processing them privately, safely, and honestly. Journaling, dua, reflection, wise counsel, tears in sujood instead of public breakdowns. This is strength, not weakness. The strongest women cry, but they do not let their tears make their decisions. Emotionally disciplined, women choose their reactions carefully. They do not raise their voice to be heard. They do not beg to be chosen. They do not threaten to leave to feel powerful. Their calm is not passivity, it is confidence. They know that dignity is louder than drama. In relationships, emotional discipline prevents manipulation, both giving and receiving it. You stop using emotions to control outcomes, and you stop allowing guilt to control you. You speak clearly. You listen attentively. You walk away when peace is repeatedly violated, not because you are heartless, but because your heart is valuable. From an Islamic lens, emotional discipline protects Iman. Many sins are emotional decisions made in moments of weakness, words spoken in anger, attachments formed in loneliness, compromises made out of fear. Discipline creates space between feeling and action, and in that space lives taqwa. A woman who masters emotional discipline becomes steady. He is not easily shaken by praise or criticism. She feels deeply, but she stands firmly. She understands that emotions pass, but character remains. And when emotions are finally expressed, they come from wisdom, not wounds. This is not about becoming a hard woman. It is about becoming a grounded woman, one who leads her emotions instead of chasing them, one who understands that strength is not how intensely you feel, but how responsibly you act despite those feelings. One of the greatest chains that hold a woman back is not weakness, lack of knowledge, or lack of ability. It is the fear of people. Fear of their opinions, fear of their reactions, fear of being disliked, misunderstood, or abandoned. This fear quietly shapes decisions, silences truth, and teaches women to betray themselves just to keep peace. Islam came to break this chain. It came to free the heart from being owned by anyone other than Allah. When the fear of people outweighs the fear of Allah, a woman begins to live performatively. She says yes when she wants to say no. She stays silent when she should speak. She tolerates what Allah never permitted just to avoid conflict. Over time, this fear erodes self-respect and weakens Iman, because the heart cannot serve two masters. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that people do not control provision, honor, or outcomes. Allah does. When a woman truly internalizes this, her behavior changes. She no longer bends her values for acceptance. She no longer compromises her deen for comfort. She understands that displeasing Allah to please people is a loss, even if it feels like a temporary win. Fear of Allah is not terror, it is awareness. It is knowing that Allah says what others miss. It is remembering that silence, obedience, and integrity are all recorded, even when no one applauds them. A woman who fears Allah chooses dignity over popularity, obedience over approval, and truth over temporary peace. Many women stay in emotionally harmful situations because they fear being labeled difficult, ungrateful, or dramatic. But Allah never commanded you to destroy yourself to maintain an image. Fear of Allah gives you the courage to walk away from what damages your soul, even when people do not understand your decision. This fear also disciplines speech. You stop gossiping to bond. You stop oversharing to be liked. You stop explaining yourself endlessly to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You speak with purpose, restraint, and sincerity, because you are more concerned with how your words are weighed by Allah than how they are received by people. When fear of Allah replaces fear of people, confidence settles into the heart. You are no longer shaken by criticism or flattered by praise. You act from principle, not pressure. This does not make you arrogant, it makes you consistent. The same in public and private, the same praised or ignored. Even in relationships, fear of Allah protects you. You do not manipulate emotions. You do not accept manipulation. You choose honesty over comfort, even when honesty is heavy. You understand that a relationship that pulls you away from Allah is not love, it is a test. The companions of the Prophet were strong, not because they were fearless, but because they feared Allah more than creation. This fear gave them courage, clarity, and inner freedom. The same is available to every woman who chooses Allah over applause. In the end, people's opinions change, their approval fades, and their loyalty is conditional. But Allah's pleasure is lasting. A woman who lives for Allah may disappoint people, but she will never disappoint herself, and she will never stand empty-handed before her Lord. Dignity is not only in what a woman says, it is also in what she refuses to say. It lives in her tone, her timing, her restraint, and her ability to hold her tongue when speaking would cost her self-respect. In a world that rewards oversharing and emotional outbursts, dignified speech has become rare and powerful. Islam does not teach women to be voiceless, but it teaches them to be intentional. Many women lose dignity not because they speak, but because they speak from wounds rather than wisdom. Hurt demands expression, but not every pain deserves a microphone. When emotions lead the tongue, words escape that cannot be retrieved. Dignity asks a woman to pause and ask herself, is what I am about to say pleasing to Allah? Is it necessary? Is it timed with wisdom or driven by emotion? The Prophet taught us that whoever believes in Allah and the last day should speak good or remain silent. Silence in Islam is not weakness. It is restraint. It is power under control. It is choosing peace over proving a point. A dignified woman understands that she does not need to respond to everything to be respected. Some battles are won by walking away quietly. Speech carries weight. It can elevate a woman or expose her. Dignified speech is calm, measured, and purposeful. It does not rush to defend, explain, or justify. It does not seek validation through words. A woman with dignity speaks as clearly, not excessively. She does not raise her voice to be heard. Her presence does that for her. One of the most common ways dignity is lost is through emotional overexposure. Sharing private pain with the wrong people, venting to those who cannot protect your vulnerability, explaining your wounds to people who caused them. Islam teaches us discretion. Privacy is not secrecy, it is wisdom. A dignified woman knows that not everyone deserves access to her inner world. There is also dignity in how a woman speaks when she is angry. Anger reveals character. Many people are polite when calm, but disciplined women remain composed when provoked. This does not mean suppressing anger. It means directing it. A dignified woman does not insult, curse, or humiliate, even when she has been wronged. She remembers that Allah hears every word, and that accountability does not disappear in emotional moments. Silence, when chosen intentionally, can be an act of worship. Sometimes silence protects you from sin, backbiting, exaggeration, cruelty, regret. Sometimes silence allows Allah to defend you better than you ever could. A woman who trusts Allah does not rush to clear her name or control the narrative. She knows that truth has a way of rising without her shouting it. But dignity does not mean silence in the face of injustice. There is a difference between silence that preserves dignity and silence that enables harm. A dignified woman speaks when necessary, clearly, respectfully, and firmly. She does not scream to be taken seriously, and she does not stay quiet to be liked. She speaks because it is right, not because it is comfortable. Dignity also lives in tone. The same words can heal or humiliate depending on how they are delivered. Islam emphasizes adab, manners, not just in actions but in speech. Sarcasm, mockery, passive aggression, and sharpness may feel powerful in the moment, but they chip away at character. A dignified woman chooses kindness without becoming weak, firmness without becoming harsh. Another place dignity is tested is in disagreement. How a woman disagrees says more about her than what she believes. Does she listen? Does she interrupt? Does she demean? Or does she stand her ground with respect? A dignified woman can disagree without dehumanizing. She understands that being right is not more important than being righteous. There is dignity in refusing to beg for attention, affection, or clarity. Repeating yourself to someone who consistently ignores you is not persistence. It is self-disrespect. Silence in such moments becomes a boundary. It communicates self-worth without a single word. A dignified woman does not chase responses. She observes behavior and responds accordingly. Speech also reflects inner order. When the heart is chaotic, the tongue becomes reckless. When the heart is grounded in remembrance of Allah, speech becomes thoughtful. This is why dhikr is not just spiritual, it is stabilizing. A woman who remembers Allah often speaks less impulsively, because her heart is anchored. Dignity in silence is especially important during moments of humiliation or misunderstanding. Defending yourself emotionally can sometimes deepen the wound. Silence allows time for clarity, for emotions to settle, for Allah's wisdom to unfold. Not every accusation deserves a response, and not every misunderstanding needs correction. A dignified woman knows when to let Allah handle what she cannot. Social spaces often pressure women to talk more than they should, to explain themselves, to entertain, to disclose. Dignity pushes back against this pressure. It teaches a woman that she does not owe everyone a story. Her life is not public property. Her silence does not mean ignorance, it often means discernment. There is also dignity in how a woman speaks about others. Backbiting may create temporary bonding, but it permanently stains the heart. A dignified woman does not tear others down to feel elevated. She does not speak ill of those who are absent. She guards her tongue because she understands that character is built in private moments. In relationships, dignity in speech means expressing needs without accusation, boundaries without threats, and disappointment without disrespect. It means choosing words that invite understanding rather than defensiveness. Silence, when used here, is not withdrawal. It is space to reflect before responding. Ultimately, dignity in speech and silence comes from awareness of Allah's presence. When a woman knows that every word is recorded, she becomes selective. She does not speak to impress. She speaks to align. She does not stay silent out of fear. She stays silent out of wisdom. A dignified woman is not loud, but she is not invisible. She is not aggressive, but she is not passive. She speaks when it adds value and remains silent when silence protects her soul. Her words are few, but they carry weight. Her silence is calm, not empty. This is not about becoming distant or cold, it is about becoming intentional. When speech and silence are guided by taqwa, a woman's presence becomes powerful without effort. She does not need to announce her worth. Her adab does it for her. True strength is often misunderstood. The world defines strength as dominance, independence from all authority, and the ability to do whatever one desires without restraint. Islam redefines strength completely. Strength is not found in rebellion. It is found in obedience to Allah. A woman who obeys Allah is not controlled, she is liberated. She is not restricted, she is protected, and she is never weak, no matter how gentle she appears. Obedience in Islam is not blind submission, it is conscious alignment. It is choosing Allah's wisdom over personal impulse, divine guidance over emotional reaction, and long-term peace over short-term pleasure. This choice requires immense inner strength, because the nafs constantly pulls in the opposite direction. Every act of obedience is a victory over ego, fear, and desire. A woman who obeys Allah does not live chaotically. Her life gains structure, clarity, and purpose. Salah disciplines her day. Modesty disciplines her desires. Halal and haram discipline her choices. These disciplines do not shrink her, they stabilize her. A disciplined soul is a strong soul. One of the greatest lies told to women is that obedience makes them small. In reality, obedience makes a woman anchored. When you know what Allah expects of you, you stop being tossed around by opinions, trends, and emotional confusion. You stop asking everyone what to do because you have a compass. That compass is obedience. Strength through obedience is most visible when no one is watching. Choosing halal when haram is easier. Lowering your gaze when desire is loud. Walking a away from attention that feeds the ego but drains the soul. Obedience in private builds a woman who is unshakable in public. This strength also shows itself in patience. Sabr is not passive waiting, it is active restraint. It is holding yourself together when life tries to pull you apart. A woman who obeys Allah understands that patience is not weakness, it is delayed victory. She trusts Allah's timing even when it hurts, because she believes obedience never goes unrewarded. Obedience protects a woman's dignity. It teaches her what to accept and what to reject. She does not chase love that costs her self-respect. She does not remain in spaces that pull her away from Allah. Her standards are not based on ego, they are based on deen. This makes her strong in ways that cannot be faked. Many women exhaust themselves trying to control outcomes. Obedience teaches surrender, not to people, but to Allah. When you obey Allah, you stop carrying what was never yours to carry. You do your part and trust Allah with the rest. This trust creates a calm confidence that no amount of self-help can replicate. Strength through obedience also heals emotional chaos. When a woman aligns her actions with Allah's commands, her heart finds peace, even in difficulty. Obedience does not remove tests. It gives you the strength to endure them without losing yourself. It keeps pain from turning into bitterness. The Prophet showed us that the strongest people were not those with the loudest voices, but those with the deepest obedience. Women around him were powerful because they were principled. They endured hardship, loss, and injustice. Not because they were weak, but because they trusted Allah more than their emotions. Obedience also protects women from self-destruction. Many regrets come from moments where desire overpowered discipline. Obedience creates a pause between urge and action. In that pause, a woman remembers Allah, and that remembrance saves her from choices she would later mourn. There is strength in obeying Allah even when it isolates you. Even when people mock your boundaries, question your choices, or misunderstand your intentions. A woman who obeys Allah accepts that not everyone will understand her path, but Allah does. And that is enough. Obedience does not erase softness, it refines it. A woman can be gentle and strong, emotional and disciplined, kind and firm all at once. Obedience brings balance. It prevents softness from turning into self-harm and strength from turning into arrogance. This strength is also deeply freeing. When you obey Allah, you are no longer enslaved to people's approval, trends, or expectations. You live to please the one who created you. That freedom brings dignity, confidence, and peace. In the end, strength through obedience is quiet but powerful. It does not announce itself. It shows in consistency, restraint, patience, and integrity. A woman who obeys Allah may not always feel powerful, but she is protected, guided, and honored. And that is the kind of strength that lasts beyond this world.